Now we have already seen that session bean has three types: stateful session bean, stateless session bean, and singleton session bean. In this video, we are going to look at stateful session bean. Now, as the name itself suggests, it is going to maintain some kind of state. So, it will keep track of the client details that the instance is dealing with throughout a particular session. Now, because it is going to keep track of which client it is interacting with, and it is going to store client specific data, obviously the access to the bean instance is strictly limited to one client at a time. So one bean instance can cater to one client. The same bean instance cannot cater to multiple clients, so concurrent access is not provided. Okay, in case anyone tries to have a concurrent access, the container will throw an exception. Okay, now a stateful session bean or stateful session EJB is a server-side object that is designed to hold the data on behalf of a particular client. So stateful session bean will hold conversations for multiple client invoked calls. So what does it mean? A single client, one client will invoke multiple methods on the same bean instance. And stateful bean will give you a way to handle this conversational state. So only one client is invoking multiple methods, one method, then same client will invoke a second method on the same bean instance, and the stateful session bean will remember. Now stateful session bean is designed to service business processes that will span across multiple method requests, or they will have multiple transactions. Now in case some client has not used the session bean recently, the client has used it and then for some time the client is idle, in that case what the container will do is container will shift the bean from the active memory to the passive, that is the secondary memory. Okay, and this is done only so that memory management can be handled properly. Fine. Now stateful session bean should be used to store the session oriented data. Now session oriented data is used to track a multi-request sequence, any kind of ordering, or any associated data that is part of the sequence. So for example, what we do in shopping cart, customer adds the product, then the checkout details are added, and then finally the customer either makes the payment or selects payment on delivery and then checks out. So there are multiple tasks in this sequence which are performed one after the other, and they are performed by one client. So in one session, everything, when it is happening, multiple tasks are happening in one session, then stateful session bean is used. Now what are the situations when I'll use stateful session bean? The bean state represents the interaction between a bean and a specific client. So per client interaction is different. So when I want to maintain the per client interaction, which is specific to each client, then I'll use stateful session bean. And when I want to hold that client's information across multiple method invocations, then again stateful session bean is appropriate. Now coming to the life cycle of the stateful session bean. Life cycle of the stateful session bean consists of three states. What are the three states now? Does not exist, ready, and passive. अभी जब बीन क्रिएट नहीं हुआ रहता है, कुछ नहीं हुआ रहता है, does not exist. So जब बीन का इंस्टेंस क्रिएट होता है, after that we perform any dependency injection if there is any. Then we have a post construct callback. Now what is the meaning of the post construct callback? Any method that is annotated with @post construct, that method is called. Now the question is, who calls this method? Container will call it. You don't call it. Container will call this method. Now if there is any init method or EJB create method, that is called. Once all these things are done, the bean instance is ready. Now the client can invoke the methods on the bean. Now, as I told you earlier, in case the client is not using that bean, the container will want to shift it from the active memory to the secondary memory to free up the space. So how it is done? We will call the method which is annotated with @pre-passivate, and then the bean will go from the ready state to passive state. We haven't destroyed it yet, it is still present, but it is just in the passive state. Now if the client invokes the method on the bean when it is in the passive state, it cannot directly reply to that method. It first has to get to the ready state. So how does it get to the ready state? Again, which callback method is there? Post activate. So any method that is annotated with post activate will be called, and then the bean will go from passive state to ready state. Now once it is in the ready state, again it is ready to handle any business methods that are invoked on it. Now once everything is done and you want to give the method for garbage collection, you can call any method that is annotated with @remove. So out of all those callback methods that we are seeing, remove is a method that you can call. Okay, post activate, pre-passivate, post construct, pre-destroy, these methods the container is going to call for you at that point in time. But remove is a method that you can call. And then after that, if you want to say now I've done everything and I want to make the bean ready for garbage collection, then you call the method that is annotated with @pre-destroy. And then obviously after that, the bean goes into the does not exist state and it is ready for garbage collection. So this is the life cycle of a stateful session bean. Obviously, the explanation of the life cycle is given in your notes. Thank you.